A rift between Canada and India has taken another turn as Ottawa says there's now evidence suggesting New Delhi was involved in the killing of a Sikh activist on Canadian soil. Here to talk about what this means when it comes to national security is former CSIS Intelligence Analyst and the president of Insight Threat Intelligence, Jessica Davis, joining us this morning. Jessica, thank you so much for joining.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'll start off with why now? What would have happened to allow Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to reveal that information yesterday when the House of Commons returned? It's not often that you see information like this and also allegations against another nation being made public in a way that was made yesterday.
There's a couple of things that happened that led us to where we are today. The first, of course, is the murder investigation that has been ongoing in British Columbia. That has probably contributed some of the information to the assessment that the government of Canada has made that this is related to the government of India. The second piece of it, of course, is a likely CSIS investigation into the same activities, but ongoing foreign interference by India. And then the ability to provide that information and intelligence to politicians and government officials. The other thing that probably happened, and I think we've seen some evidence for this too, is that there seems to have been some leaking of this intelligence or information to newspapers. And so the government really had to come out ahead of that and share information proactively with Canadians about this really explosive allegation.
It is an explosive allegation, a bombshell as it was being described yesterday when we heard about it. How serious is this when it comes to national security? What does it mean for Canada's national security?
I think it's important to remember that foreign interference does not start with targeted killings. That's not the opening move by states when they're conducting foreign interference activities in another country. So this is the culmination of what is probably a long-standing campaign of Indian foreign interference in Canada. We'll likely learn more about that at the inquiry that's starting today. But this is really just a really egregious action that India has taken. In terms of the broader impacts for Canadian national security, it really demonstrates that Canada has lagged behind in terms of stopping foreign interference. The things that we should be able to expect from our state security services is that they would be able to stop this kind of activity, that they'd be able to detect it ahead of time, and that they would take quick and firm action, which we're now seeing, to essentially punish India for really overstepping by a wide mile appropriate diplomatic activities in Canada.
All right. Now, diplomats on both sides in Canada and in India have been expelled over the last 24 hours as well. How do you think the two countries can continue diplomatically?
I think for the short term, it's going to be a very chilly relationship. There's already been a significant chill in terms of our diplomatic relations, in terms of our trade relationships. I don't see that changing anytime soon, particularly with India refusing to take any sort of responsibility for its activities here in Canada and essentially saying that they wouldn't be cooperating with our investigation. Until there's some sort of rapprochement on that front, I suspect that these relationships will stay quite distant. We might even see continued expulsion of diplomats on both sides. And it's also possible that we could see sanctions against India for human rights abuses.
And that would be the other thing as well, looking ahead to a possible escalation of the actions that have taken place so far in terms of the expulsions of the diplomats. We know that Trudeau later on today is going to be heading to New York for the UN General Assembly. This likely will be a topic as well. Will this also trigger other countries around the world to start, if not already investigating, but at least revealing some information of possible foreign interference coming from India?
That's one possibility. I would imagine that this week, during some pull-asides, Trudeau will be meeting with his counterparts, Canadian officials will be meeting with their counterparts, and this will be a significant part of the conversation that they're having at the United Nations General Assembly. What Canada really wants to do here, I think, is a bit of an open question. A lot of states probably don't want to antagonize India further. There's some very delicate geopolitical issues going on with Russia, India, China, the war in Ukraine. And trying to put, I think more effort is required to bring India more into the fold rather than to push it out, just even with these these allegations on the table. So I think it's going to be a bit of a delicate dance, and I'm not entirely confident that the government of Canada will want other nations to take action, that this might be the kind of thing that we want to handle on our own.
All right, and we saw a little bit of the preview of those chilly relationships happening at the G20 between Trudeau and, of course, the Indian PM. We'll have to see how this progresses as well. Jessica Davis, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.